5 dangerous gang members reacting to serving life in prison. We're going to be sharing the reactions of 5 dangerous gang members who have been sentenced to life in prison. These individuals have been involved in some of the most heinous crimes, from murders to drug trafficking, and their actions have caused irreparable damage to countless families and communities. Now they are facing the consequences of their actions and will spend the rest of their lives behind bars. We'll be sharing their raw and unfiltered reactions to the life sentences, giving you a glimpse into the minds of these dangerous individuals. This video is not meant to glorify their actions or sympathize with them in any way, but rather to shed light on the harsh reality of gang violence and the long-lasting impact it has on society. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and get ready to hear their reactions to these 5 dangerous gang members as they come to terms with the reality of their situation. This is a video you won't want to miss. Number 1. Ronnie O'Neal III. Ronnie O'Neal III, who was found guilty of murdering his 9-year-old daughter and mother of his 2 children in 2018. The trial, which lasted 3 years, was a heart-wrenching and emotional one that shook the nation. But justice was served, and in this video, we'll be discussing the details of this tragic case. On the day of the murder, Ronnie O'Neal III brutally murdered both his daughter and her mother. His son, who was just 11 years old at the time, barely survived the attack and lived to testify against his father in court. During the trial, the prosecution began their closing arguments by playing the 911 call from O'Neal's girlfriend, Kenyatta Barron, as she pleaded for her life. The recording captured the sound of O'Neal beating her with a shotgun while she begged for her life. O'Neal chose to represent himself in court, and he shouted at the jurors, claiming that his son's statements were inconsistent and that he had been coached by the Hillsborough County detective, who later adopted him. However, the jury found O'Neal guilty of the charges after just a few hours of deliberation. The case of Christopher Collin, who recently appeared before a judge, is another example of a defendant who displayed contempt for the court. Collin was arrested in Pompano Beach on charges stemming from a domestic violence case. He had allegedly violated 2 restraining orders by taking his girlfriend to a restaurant where his ex-girlfriend was also eating. When the judge denied his release from jail, Collin threatened to file a lawsuit before walking away from the lectern. Collin returned momentarily and cursed at the judge before again walking away. Deputies chased after him, and other prisoners could be heard laughing and booing off camera as a now handcuffed Collin was brought back. He continued to curse at the judge, and the deputy turned off the microphone. However, the judge asked the deputy to turn on the microphone to hear Collin's response. Collin invited the judge to perform a sex act on him, and the judge held him in contempt of court. Number 2. Luis Bracamontes. Luis Bracamontes, a Mexican citizen who was found guilty of murder in the 2014 shootings of Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver and Placer County Sheriff's Detective Michael Davis Jr. During his trial, Bracamontes made a number of profane outbursts and threatened to kill more officers. He even looked towards the relatives of the slain victims and smiled as he was removed from the courtroom mid-rant. As the jury read its verdict, Bracamontes grinned and silently clapped his hands. Bracamontes was also convicted of attempted murder, carjacking, weapons violations, and other crimes. His lawyers requested that he be allowed to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but the request was denied. It is important to note that this case was highly emotional and controversial. Bracamontes' actions were heinous and completely unjustified. He took the lives of 2 officers who were simply doing their job and protecting their community. During the trial, Bracamontes' outbursts caused a lot of tension in the courtroom. He was removed from the courtroom repeatedly, and his behavior was completely unacceptable. It is clear that Bracamontes showed no remorse for his actions and even seemed to revel in the attention he received during the trial. The families of the slain officers and the law enforcement community as a whole were deeply affected by this tragedy. The loss of 2 brave officers is a reminder of the risks that law enforcement officers face every day while they work to keep our communities safe. Number 3. Joseph McAlpin. Joseph McAlpin, a Cleveland man who has been sentenced to death row. McAlpin, who is just 32 years old, was found guilty of several charges, including aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, kidnapping, grand theft, and cruelty to animals. Details of the case. Last month, McAlpin was found guilty by a Cuyahoga County jury, and last week, the same jury recommended the death penalty, which the judge upheld. The Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office has stated that McAlpin, along with 2 co-defendants, went to Mr. Carr's in the Collinwood neighborhood of Cleveland on April 14, 2017, with the intention of stealing vehicles. While the other two men waited down the street, McAlpin shot and killed Michael Kuznick, 50, and Trina Tomolo Kuznick, 46. He's also accused of killing the family dog before the group stole 2 cars from the lot. The couple's 19-year-old son discovered their bodies inside the family-owned business. Reactions from the victim's family. The family of Michael and Trina have expressed relief that justice has been served. The couple's son, who discovered their bodies, stated that he was grateful for the support of the community during the trial and that he hoped that the sentence would bring closure to their family. The family also expressed their appreciation for the hard work of the prosecutors and the law enforcement officers who worked on the case. Number 4. Sidney Newsome. A 27-year-old was in court facing charges of domestic violence. When Judge Rhimes ordered him to be removed from the courtroom, Newsome became unruly and started to throw objects at the judge, causing chaos to ensue. In the surveillance video captured from the courtroom, we see Newsome struggling with the bailiff and then throwing a stack of papers at the judge. As Newsome tried to grab more objects in the courtroom, a bailiff struggled to restrain him. That's when Judge Rhimes got up from his seat and approached Newsome, who then tried to throw a phone at him. However, Judge Rhimes took matter into his own hands and single-handedly pinned Newsome onto the desk and held him there until backup arrived. This act of bravery and quick thinking helped prevent any further damages or injuries from occurring in the courtroom. Unfortunately, Newsome's actions did not go unnoticed, and he received an additional charge of contempt of court. He served 2 days in jail for his behavior. This incident highlights the importance of maintaining order and decorum in the courtroom. Judges are responsible for ensuring the trials and hearings proceed in a respectful and safe environment for everyone involved. When individuals become unruly and violent in the courtroom, it not only puts the lives of others in danger, but it also hinders the administration of justice. We commend Judge Aubrey Rhimes for his quick thinking and for keeping everyone safe in the courtroom. We hope that this incident serves as a reminder to all that violence and aggression have no place in the court of law. Number 5. Futo Charles and Nico Jenkins. Futo Charles and Nico Jenkins, both these individuals were responsible for heinous crimes that shook their communities, and justice has finally been served. Details of the case. Futo Charles, the leader of one of South Florida's most violent gangs, was recently sentenced to 65 years in prison on racketeering charges. Charles was convicted of racketeering conspiracy, drug charges, and other crimes, all linked to the 14 homicides and over 150 shootings committed by his gang. The conviction came after a heavily guarded trial, during which a witness who planned to testify was gunned down in a parking lot. Charles's gang, formed by Haitian immigrants, had over 400 members and was responsible for a fatal Christmas Eve shooting at a mall in 2006, among other crimes. In another case, Nico Jenkins was sentenced to death 4 times for 4 murders and up to 500 years in prison for his remaining crimes. Jenkins, who went on a killing spree that lasted for 10 days, was convicted of killing 3 men and a young mother. The trial took place 4 years after the murders, and the families of the 2 victims were present in the courtroom to hear the sentencing. Jenkins, who had a history of violent crimes, including previous murder charges, sat quietly during the sentencing, with 6 deputies guarding him. Reaction to the sentencing. The families of the victims in both cases expressed relief that justice had been served. The Palm Beach Post reported that the families of the victims in Futo Charles' case were happy with the outcome and felt that their community could now be safer. In Nico Jenkins' case, the families of the victims were emotional but satisfied with the sentencing, and they hoped that it would bring them some closure. Thank you for watching our video on the 5 dangerous gang members to serving life in prison. We hope this has given you a deeper understanding of the impact of gang violence and the consequences of such actions. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.